Yo, what's going on, guys? C2 Wrestling back with another video. We are going insane with the videos right now, just about every single day. The commitment to this channel is so strong that Snowden has officially purchased a brand new microphone.
Absolutely. It was on the docket of things to do for this channel. And I did definitely plan on it. But man, just seeing the little bit of love we've gotten in just a few videos, we're getting right to it. I'm pushing that buy button quicker than I anticipated. And this guy I know that also happens to watch wrestling and have a YouTube channel, his name's also Chris, has the same mic. He recommended one to me. So I figured I'd give it a shot. Upgrading the setup already, one step at a time. We got a lot of great things coming. But I'm going to pass it back to you to let up some news in the wrestling community.
Absolutely. If you clicked on the video, you obviously know the news we're talking about. It's the Lucha Brothers, one of the best tag teams in the world, without question. Have been in AEW for multiple years now. Contract coming to an end. Reports from Fightful and Sean Ross that they have spoken to WWE potentially, and they have said they want to be a package deal. They do not want to go to NXT. And it does seem, according to all reports, that they are on their way out of AEW. And Conan's cryptic tweet that he had, "What goes around comes around, part two," seems to be pointing towards being about the Lucha Brothers leaving AEW. So, Snowden, I ask you, I mean, this is a question I probably know the answer to, but if you're WWE, are you jumping all over the chance at the Lucha Brothers? And as a fan, you is this a match made in heaven? WWE Lucha Brothers help for the tag team division?
Absolutely, it is. If you're WWE, you jump on this. The tag division is popping right now in WWE, and it's only about to get a little bit better if you add in the Lucha Bros, who are two of the best wrestlers in the world, one of the best tag teams actively going. I date myself a little bit back. I'm sure a lot of us that watch this channel have also maybe watched Lucha Underground back in the day. I was a big Lucha Underground fan in the early days. Ray Phoenix, Pentagon Jr., Lucha Underground at that time were the two best wrestlers in the world, and I'll stand on that hill. Put them in AEW for a while. They had a few years there. I know they've done a lot of other companies as well, a lot of stuff in between, but I've even seen some tweets already with this news only breaking a matter of hours ago. Oh man, when the Lucha Bros went to AEW, everybody was kind of crapping on them, but they go to WWE and we love them again. And they've always been great. Lucha Bros were always a highlight of even any AEW show, any show they've been on. But they were a little watered down in AEW. When you go back and watch some of their Lucha Underground stuff, Pentagon Jr., he was the greatest thing going, greatest active wrestler alive at that point, in my opinion. Phoenix, I'm going to date myself back. Ray Phoenix faces Mil Muertes in a grave consequences match. I can argue that's one of my favorite matches of all time. I've been begging to get these guys in WWE ever since Lucha Underground. We're almost 10 years ago at this point. They had a good stint in AEW. They won the tag belts. They did all they could do there. It's time to move on. WWE is calling. That's the spot to be right now. They're answering that call.
As the one of the believers in TNA of all the times, never giving up on TNA. I loved their stint in TNA. It was brief, but Pentagon Jr. won the World Heavyweight Championship. They had a fantastic feud with LAX. Loved what they did. Again, I agree. Fantastic wrestlers. I do kind of want to squash the notion of AEW either misuse them or they, you know, like there's nothing really left for them to accomplish in AEW, especially if they're sticking as a tag team. If they're planning on splitting, that's a different story because obviously they haven't had true singles runs in AEW. But they've won the tag titles there. They've won the trios titles there. They've even won the ROH titles there. So, like, what else is there to do? You've had your feud with the Young Bucks. You feuded with basically all their top tag teams. WWE is where all the fresh opportunities are because they haven't been in WWE before and been a part of this landscape, especially under Triple H, to where who knows what it could bring. So I guess the big question is, and to me, the biggest part of the report, because I think it's obvious if you're WWE, you'd be foolish to not be interested in them. And if the price is right, it always makes sense. The biggest part of the report for me is they don't want to go to NXT, which I'd understand why, but I think you're like me and we don't look at NXT as developmental anymore. It's still the notion around it, but to me it's not, especially with it going to CW on its own. So I'm like I would have loved them to go straight to NXT. It seems that they're squashing that, but is that the best landing for them going straight to this main roster, Raw or SmackDown, or would you have rather seen them with at least a stint in NXT?
You know, I do understand a lot of these more so bigger names skipping NXT and going right to the main roster. And Pentagon and Phoenix are big names. They absolutely could do so. But I don't think I want them to. I think that is a team I want to see get a short stint in NXT. Not that they are going to go in as heels, but Pentagon himself does his best work as a heel, in my opinion. I think it writes itself to put the titles back on Chase U. Axiom and Fraser lose the belts to Chase U. Big baby faces and Chase U. They defend the titles again at the next pay per view. Maybe it's even a rematch against Axiom and Fraser. Lucha Bros come out, attack Chase U after the match. There we go. We have a top heel faction team versus a top face team. Immediately put those titles on Lucha Bros. Short stint as tag champions. Call them up. Put a couple teams over in NXT. I think they could be used heavily down there to put over some teams. But I also can see them going straight to the main roster. I get the decision. I especially get why they want to do that. But I personally would like to see them in NXT for a little bit. I think NXT also needs a tag team, established or not, more than the main roster does right now.
What I don't want to see is them to go to WWE and immediately go into a stable. I know the jokes are they'd immediately join the LWO or like
Yeah.
Legato. Like I get that. I don't want that at all. I want them to be their own tag team. If they feud with one of them, that's a different story. I do think though, if they do sign with the WWE and they go straight to the main roster, I think you've got to send a tag team down to NXT full time. Like I know Gallows and Anderson have gone down there a little bit. Um, you now have Cedric and Ashante down there seemingly full time. I don't know, maybe Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wild go down there full time again. The NXT tag division, it doesn't have that like marquee name right now to kind of hold the division afloat. Like Axiom and Frazier are great, but unless it's a TNA team they're facing, like Chase U is suitable, but they need that like credible, solid tag team. And I'm not saying the Lucha Brothers have to go down there, win the tag titles, and be there for 2 years. This could be a 6 month thing. 6 month is a long time, but also not very long at all. If you sign a 4 year contract, that's like an eighth year contract. I would like a little short stint in NXT. I know that's going to get some heat. Some people aren't going to like that, but I don't look at NXT like I used to 5 years ago. It's not that same NXT, especially with it going on its own network now.
You mentioned something there that catches me. You mentioned getting heat, because what I'm about to say might get me some heat. But we got to be realistic here, okay? I love Pentagon. I love Phoenix. I always have since LU, Lucha Underground again. I've liked their stint in AEW. Again, they kind of did all they could do there as a tag team. They are not MJF type names. They are not Cody Rhodes type names. They are not so big that they are going to debut on the main roster and people are going to know who they are all over. There is a much more casual audience watching WWE that doesn't watch AEW, didn't watch Lucha Underground, has no idea who these guys are. And don't get me wrong, if they debut on whatever brand, they're going to capitalize and be fantastic. But a short stint in NXT maybe helps that name value a little bit for the Lucha Bros. That's what you also want, too. I feel like having them start small and building them up is only going to do wonders for them. The last masked wrestler to really go over in WWE is still Rey Mysterio. They have not really had a masked guy go over that well in ages. I've been saying it for years. Pentagon, Phoenix are those guys. This is dating us again too. Used to get those email surveys from WWE. What do you want to see? And I vividly remember back then one of those questions: who do you want to see in WWE? Pentagon, Ray Phoenix. I'm hitting both of those buttons real quick. But I don't want to generate any heat. But we need to be realistic and realize that WWE is the conglomerate here. AEW is very small in comparison to what WWE is. I think they have the name value to really go anywhere, but we'll find out. When they do show up, I will say that Zero Fear merch is going to go hard. That's going to sell like hotcakes.
That's going to do incredible numbers. To play devil's advocate, you could make the argument, well, Tama Tonga and Tongaloa went straight to the main roster, and you could even say have less of a name in wrestling than them too. But to be fair, they kind of are easier to slide in given the whole storyline being a part of the bloodline story. You can kind of get away with it a little easier than them just showing up. So I completely understand them not wanting to do an NXT. Like I get it. Personally, I would love a start there. And before we wrap things up here, there's reports they might be signing with the WWE. There's also reports that the WWE may be signing the Motor City Machine Guns. This could be an incredible back-to-back tag teams. And yes, I know they're not the younger up and coming names that normally WWE would kind of prefer. But when you're talking about the tag team division, which we know so quickly in WWE, they're always one to two teams splitting away from, an entire division falling apart. If both those teams sign, no matter where they go, one to the main roster, one NXT, both to the main roster, they both immediately elevate the tag division multiple folds.
Oh, yeah. We got dream matches galore with one of those teams signing, let alone both of them. On the flip side from Lucha Bros, Motor City Machine Guns straight to the main roster, not fooling around. I want them in there involved. If you're going to bring both these teams in and bring them right up, you got to separate them, I think. Motor City Machine Guns on, say, SmackDown, Lucha Bros on Raw. I think there's so many matchups we can get, singles and tag matches out of these guys. I'm looking forward to it. There's not much more I can say other than I'm tuned in. I do want to turn it back to you to ask regarding the Lucha Bros, because that is the more so breaking news tonight. One match, Lucha Bros and WWE. What is your must see Lucha Bros match?
Must see. Oh, that's a tough question. You're really putting me on the spot. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
first immediately what came to mind was DIY, probably because like that's just that almost feels like the generic answer. Like if you ask me this
Yeah.
question with machine guns, DIY is probably the first name that comes to mind. But then also at the same time, it's like, man, something appeals to Jacob Fatu being in the ring with both of them and they just absolute beating the tar out of each other, where it's like Bloodline 2.0 versus them. Like that would be an incredible match. But the first name that popped in my mind was DIY, so I would go with DIY.
Both incredible matchups, obviously. DIY, I do agree, is like the given almost. I didn't even really consider Fatu, to be honest. That's a crazy matchup. But I want to see the Lucha Bros versus the Creed Bros. I want Bros
Mm,
versus Bros.
mm.
You got the Young Bucks in the, well, not literally the Young Bucks, but you got the Young Bucks in the Creed Bros, and then you got Pentagon and Ray. Not that it would happen in NXT, because clearly the Creed Bros are on Raw with Gable and American Made, but that is the matchup that if it was in NXT, we are back to that black and gold era of like DIY facing the revival type stuff. Putting that on the main roster, I think, is must see. Flipping it to SmackDown, I think Bloodline like Fatu, I think that more so suits a Motor City Machine Guns.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, both the teams are so talented and so great that it really doesn't matter who you put them in with. Like it's going to be guaranteed great matches. I will say though, there is something in me where it's like I need to see the Motor City Machine Guns face Axiom and Frazier before Axiom and Frazier split up. Like I don't care if it's on the main roster, it's on NXT. If it's on a damn house show and I have to watch an 8 minute clip on YouTube, that is a match that I need to see. I don't know what it is. The forever TNA fan in me needs that. The NXT fan in me needs that. But that is like the most obscure, like potential dream match to me right now. I don't know why.
I completely get it. That is a fantastic matchup. Axiom and Fraser go. They might not get the love a lot of these other teams get, but they're still in NXT. Fraser, especially, man, he's going to face Rollins at Mania one day. Mark it down. It's going to happen. Would love to see that matchup. It would be great. I'm again looking very forward to all this. One final question I got for you. You're transitioning now as a tag team from AEW to WWE if they go over. Do you think they slow it down a little bit? Do you think we're going to get the same exact Lucha Bros we got in AEW?
I don't think so, but I don't think that's I don't think it's a bad thing.
Fair. Yeah.
Like I think first of all, you are going to be introduced to a new audience. So you're going to want to sprinkle in some of your stuff, but you don't want to just do all of your great move set right away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, again, we were talking about potentially getting heat for something. I could potentially get heat for this statement. I don't know if anybody in WWE wants to have Pentagon doing the Canadian Destroyer spot he did with Orange Cassidy. And in my opinion, was one of the worst spots in wrestling in a very long
Yep.
time. And
So that
I like both those guys.
I just got to say real quick that spot is particularly what makes me bring up this question because I agree. Love Pentagon. It's one of the worst spots ever. And WWE, even though wrestling has evolved, Shawn Michaels used to KO people with a super kick. Now we got Jimmy and Jay hitting them every match. I get it, but finishers are almost still finishers in WWE. AEW is a little bit more freedom in that sense. You get hit with a Canadian destroyer, that's a 1, 2, 3 type move. I don't think we're getting a few in a row in WWE. I think we're still going to get the very explosive offense that is Pentagon and Phoenix, but I do think it's a little bit slowed down in comparison.
For sure. If WWE is able to sign even one of the two tag teams with the Motor City Machine Guns and the Lucha Brothers, it is an absolute win for them. And it's a win for us as the fans because this
Big
is
time.
all fresh matchups that would be new to us. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys think the Lucha Brothers are going to WWE, you want to see certain matches, let us know down in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe if you're new, like the video, share it, check out the podcast. Episode 2, episode 3 drops next Thursday, every Thursday morning on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Chris,
Chris, 0. Yeah.
it was only right.